A very good evening to one and all, and a warm welcome to the In-Service Skills Enhancement Program presented by VidyaDaan Foundation. I'm Dr. Mayurita, and I'm here to take you through the session. To begin with, I would like to introduce VidyaDaan to the ones who aren't aware of this organization. VidyaDaan Foundation is a transformative non-profit organization. It is dedicated to empowering underprivileged children, youth, and women through the power of education. With an unwavering commitment to fostering a brighter future, VidyaDaan Foundation is at the forefront of providing high-quality education in India, thereby enabling disadvantaged children to unlock their potential. To enhance the quality of education, it also conducts teachers training programs. And in the past, under the In-Service Skill Enhancement Program, which is ISEP, we take pride when we say that we have successfully trained over 16,000 teachers. We all know that the National Education Policy emphasizes on continuous professional development, that is CPD, of educators. Each teacher is expected to participate in at least 50 hours of CPD opportunities every year. Now we have resumed this in-service skills enhancement program, which is popularly called as ISEP, and we are going to are already having these sessions from last Saturday. We shall have sessions every Saturday henceforth, and which will be starting at 5 p.m. and continue till 6 p.m. And our speakers will be eminent educators who will share their expertise with us on various relevant and pressing topics for us as educators. Point to be noted is that educators who successfully attend this program will be receiving a valid e-certificates which states you have completed 1 hour of training, which is going to be very helpful to each one of you when you are going to submit your appraisals. I will briefly inform you of the process here, and after the presentation of the speaker, we will be sharing a questionnaire that will be based on today's content. The person who gets a score of 7 is eligible for the e-certificate. Please note the Google form link has to be filled before leaving this meeting. In case you want the e-certificate, you will have to pay a small amount of rupees 100 as a contribution, and you will receive your e-certificate via WhatsApp within 7 working days. Coming to the session, I would like to introduce our speaker to all of you. Our expert today is Dr. Indira. Dr. Indira, VMD, is a former agricultural scientist turned educationist. She is also a Bharatanatyam dancer. In her school days, she used to learn maths by dancing. That's so wonderful, ma'am. She began her foray in education by teaching dance to children with specific needs. Gradually, she expanded and experimented with other forms of art. She is deeply and passionately involved in art-integrated learning, pedagogy, and is continuously exploring innovative ways of creating joyful and engaging classrooms. Currently, she is working as a senior associate with Center in the assessment team. It is indeed such an honor to have you on board, ma'am. Madam is going to share with us deep insights into the nitty-gritties of preparing an effective question paper with a changing pattern in assessment. It is a topic which bears prime importance to all of us. Dear viewers, in case you have some very important questions related to the topic, you can put it on the chat and we shall try to address them if time permits. I now request Madam to kindly begin with the session, which we all are eagerly waiting for you. Over to you, ma'am. The stage is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayuri, ma'am. Thank you very much for the wonderful words of introduction. One small thing, assessment, making effective question paper. That was a session that was conducted long back, about 3 months back when the ISEP session started. Today, I would be throwing some small insights on inclusive education. And in fact, inclusive education is something that's very close to my heart because my foray into education started as a teacher as a dance teacher for children with specific needs and learning disabilities. And initially, I started off as a dance teacher. I tried teaching them different hand movements, the mudras, the eye movements, and the neck movements, everything. Gradually, when it came to body movements and all of that, later I realized that not just dance, but while some take it grasp through dance, some prefer music, some prefer singing, vocal singing, whereas some others prefer something like sketching, pencil sketching, or some of them love coloring, or some even love cooking. Okay. And that is how they grasp some of the core concepts. It may be something as simple as capital letter A and small letter A, mummy A and baby A. Or it may be something slightly on the complex side, age as per the age, like water cycle or evolution, right from amoeba to the biped humans. It might be something slightly complex. Everything, it is not necessary children grasp it only through dance. Some of them grasped it through arts, through various forms of arts. In fact, sculpting, model making, cooking. Cooking, yes, I have hundreds of examples to tell you how different children actually, grasp. And these children I'm talking about are not the per se normal children that we categorize them as. They are on the slightly on the inclusive end, or rather the specific needs end, but they are normal. Brain wise, they are normal. So that is how I started becoming an educator, and gradually I got deeply involved in art integration. So that's a completely different story. Now, let us come to inclusive education, debunking and knowing. I begin the presentation with a small poll. Okay. Now, which aspect of inclusive education do you think needs the most improvement in your community? Is it accessibility of school infrastructure? A. Is it B, teacher training and awareness? Is it C, availability of learning resources? Or is it D, the parental and community involvement? Which of these aspects do you think needs the most improvement in your community? So I'll just stop my screen share here so that I can take a look at all your poll results. Let me just take a good look. Okay, some of them are saying, I have started getting the answers, and some of them are saying B and D. Love Kush says parental and community involvement. Shumanto says all of the above. Okay. So basically, here it is quite subjective. If we try to look at which one needs a lot of improvement with respect to inclusive education, yes, it is very subjective, because in some places, while it is accessibility of the school infrastructure, at some places it is the teacher training. Some other places it is availability of learning resources. Whereas in a third place, it could be parental and community involvement. So it is in fact all of the above. It depends on community to community, right? So I'm just going to touch briefly upon some of the aspects of inclusive education. So here is a small story for you. I'm sure all of you know this very famous personality and the family. In fact, the picture was quite popular. What we call it as viral in about 2 to 3 years back. This is none other than Chief Justice Dr. D.Y. Chandrachud with his family. He has 2 children, 2 daughters, and Mahi and Priyanka. And very few days back, I think about 2 weeks back, I happened to hear his address in YouTube. Okay, I'll just stop sharing my screen so that I can look at all of you. Now, in the address, he said that when now these 2 children, Mahi and Priyanka, they both were born in Uttarakhand. Okay. And they were born with this specific condition called as Nimoline myopathy. Now, Nimoline myopathy is a condition wherein the skeletal muscles are not very strong. Okay. So, unfortunately, the children suffering from this particular condition, they are wheelchair bound for the rest of their lives. In other words, they cannot dance, run, jump, hop, skip like all the other normal children. But their brain is absolutely normal. Their cognitive skills are absolutely normal. The functioning is absolutely fine. The thought process is absolutely fine. Unfortunately, they are wheelchair bound. Okay. Now, what is happening over here is because of this, there are no facilities. Now, I'll tell you what Justice Chandrachud shared in that talk. He said when they were born in Uttarakhand, now this is a very rare genetic condition that affects 1 in 5 lakh children. Imagine the statistic, 1 in 5 lakh children. So there is no awareness among people. The family is in a state of denial. The health professionals, they are not very much aware. And there are no schools around for these children. Then when Justice Sir and Kalpana Madam, his wife, when they adopted the 2 daughters, they were in Allahabad. They brought the 2 little precious princesses to Allahabad. And the parents obviously took them to a hospital for diagnosis and prognosis, etc. Diagnosis and treatment. And it was the testing was really invasive. Okay. Now, in that procedure, they had to extract, the doctors had to extract the tissue from the children without any anesthesia. Imagine one small injection prick in our hand. That itself is painful, which we always do like this. We grin and bear it. But this is completely extracting a tissue, extracting some body cells from the children who are at such a tender age. Okay. And that too without anesthesia. It was so painful that the elder one, once she completed the procedure, she came out, despite of all the pain, all she could tell her father was, please don't let my sister undergo this. Okay. And in Allahabad, unfortunately, there was no school. There was only one special needs school, which was unfortunately shut down because the person who founded it was no more. Later, when they went to Delhi, there again, the parents did a lot of research on the schools and they went to a lot of schools. The special schools, they did not accept because they are not special children. Their brains are completely normal. Okay, the brain is completely functioning as any normal child's brain would. So then they went to one of the schools, and as parents, they have to explain the situation. They explained the entire situation to the principal. The principal patiently heard them out, and then, as a father, he asked the principal, "Can you ensure that my children would not be bullied by other children?" The principal said, "Well, children are children. We cannot guarantee anybody's behavior." That was, I would not say how insensitive, that's becoming too judgmental on me. But that is the level of awareness among people. And then, fortunately for Kalpana ma'am and Justice Chandrachud, they got a wonderful school called Sanskriti. And he mentions that in his talk. If you get time after this particular webinar, please search for Justice Chandrachud's talk on, I'm forgetting the date when this happened, talk about Nemoline myopathy. Nemoline myopathy, Nemoline myopathy. He talks about this very wonderfully. And there, in that particular school, the principal said, "Please don't worry. As a parent, I understand your concerns, but we have mentor students, buddy student system, wherein all the incoming new children, they are taken care of by the seniors or children of the same age in the same class. In that way, while children, that is Mahi and Priyanka, when despite of their specific needs, while they settle down in the new environment, they settle down in the new school, they are also taken care of by all their peers and their seniors who are the mentor students. And that is what I call as social emotional learning. A perfect experiential learning over here. It is being demonstrated. And this is exactly what is needed in inclusive education. Now, with that note, we move forward with our presentation. Please give me a moment. I will start resharing my screen. And in fact, with people like Justice Chandrachud and Kalpana ma'am coming to the fore and raising their voices and speaking about it, amplifies our voice when we work for the mission, when we work towards empowerment and inclusive education in the classrooms. Moving on, we go to the next part, and I wonder why my screen is not moving. Please give me a moment. Yes. So, what is the moral of the story? The moral of the story I was narrating this far about Chief Justice Dr. D.Y. Chandrachud. The moral is that inclusive education is all about creating learning environment where every student, irrespective of, I emphasize on the word, every student, regardless or irrespective of their abilities, learn together in the same classroom. In other words, it is including all children in quality learning. This is what the UN says about inclusive education, including all children into quality learning, right? Now we move forward and let us go to the next part. So this particular line about inclusive education, that is creating learning environment where every student, regardless of their ability, learn together in the same classroom, is the philosophy of inclusive education. And what does that mean? What does a philosophy mean? It just means that schools are expected to adapt their curriculum, the teaching methods, and environment to meet the diverse needs of all students, thus making education accessible to everyone. Making education accessible. That is, in every class, we have a variety of learners. I always say, a teacher walking into a class is like a teacher walking into Jurassic Park. पता नहीं कौन सी डायरेक्शन से कौन सा डायनासोर आग डालेगा. From which direction which dinosaur is going to breathe out fire. Okay. So we as teachers, we have to be more prepared. And when it comes to inclusive education, we have to meet the needs of each and every child. Some child would learn in a very straightforward manner. Some children take a little bit of time. Some children, they go all the 10 kilometers and then they finally reach their goal. ऐसे खाने के बदले, some of them, they go all and then they reach. Go like this, right? But for us, teachers, for us, institution leaders, we have to include everyone and go ahead in life. So for example, as you can see over here, this is the simplest example of inclusive education, wherein there's a wheelchair for the child who is wheelchair bound and steps for the child who can walk normally. This is the essence of inclusive education. Now, moving forward, I'm keeping this on the screen for the next 10 seconds. Please take a look at these few sentences that are there on screen. Okay. I assume all of you have looked at these three sentences. Here is a question for you. Please take a look at the question and start typing in your answers. I'm giving you another 10 seconds to type in the answers, because after that I'll stop the screen share so that I can look at the comment section on YouTube. What can be concluded about the child who has written these three sentences? What can be concluded about the child who has written these three sentences? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now I'll stop my screen share so that you all can continue typing in your comments. But let me take a look at your answers. Okay, so Kiran Krasto says the child has understood the concept but is unable to present it in a neat fashion. Okay. Then Lavkush says no space. Okay, fine. What else? Pragati Gavdeji says lacks motor skill. Then student is creative. Okay, fine. All right. Then the student is not able to write. That's what Noori Alamji says. Then Hetal Shah ji says maybe does not know how to organize sentences. All right. Okay. Then Shumanto ji says feeling disinterested and bored by the same non-creative assignment. Agreed. Rajni Thomas ji says writing disability. Okay, fine. Lovely. So now I will reshare the screen and then let us just debrief on this. Okay, we'll have a quick discussion. I know I'm doing a lot of screen share and unshare. Actually, I usually keep my mobile here, but I'm growing a little old, so I can't see the small letters on the mobile in the comment section. That's why I'm doing the screen sharing and unsharing. All right, coming back. Now, here, if you look at this, it is the first sentence here, there is a Q capital, F capital, J capital. Okay, and the letters are all crooked, right? Here, if you see, K is assumed to be capital, F is capital. Okay. Now, if you look at the last sentence, यहाँ पे N पता नहीं कहाँ से कहाँ जा रहा है, पूरी कश्मीर से कन्याकुमारी तक जा रहा है, right? Over the lazy dog. There is no spacing in any of the sentences, right? But at the same time, I notice a few good points. If you look at the grammar, it's a check. If you look at the spellings, again, that's a complete check. There are no mistakes. Okay. If you look at the punctuations, yes, there is no space, but full stop is there. But the only thing over here is all the letters are crooked. And if you notice, the child is not able to maintain one single line. He or she is not able to write in one line. Okay, that spatial ability is not yet developed. And that is also one reason why there are no, see, there are spaces in the first sentence at some places. But if you look at the last sentence, there is no space at all. Okay. This is a specific condition called as dysgraphia. Okay. Now, here, the child is brilliant. The child understands the concepts. The child is able to do everything. The child, only problem that the child is having is holding the pen or the pencil, grasping the writing tool and writing it properly. This is a specific condition called dysgraphia. Okay. Now, unfortunately, yes, I know quite a few children who are suffering from dysgraphia. Unfortunately, even though we tried counseling the parents, the family was in a state of denial. And by the time the family accepted and they thought, or rather they agreed to provide intervention, it was too late. Fortunately, CBSE and NEP, both of them have suggested having scribes for such children. The child can completely learn everything in a normal school. The child can attend a normal school, or rather the child has to attend a normal school. Okay. And the child will learn the regular curriculum, the regular school curriculum. But when it comes to assessment, there are tailor-made assessments. That is, in other words, the child will have a scribe. The child will dictate the answers. The scribe will write the answers. So that is one solution in case the intervention does not happen in time. Okay. So what is the moral of the story? This. I would like to know the moral of the story through this poll. Should a child with specific needs, or you can take the example of this particular child who wrote these sentences, should this child be segregated and kept in a different classroom for the whole day at school? Yes or no? You have 10 seconds. After that, I'll stop the screen share. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Stop the screen share. Now let me look at what you all are saying. Okay. 1 minute. No. All of you are saying no. ये designed है क्या? All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, all of you. Jalaja ji, Shaila ji, Hetal ji, and Himanshi ji. Yes, Ende school says need special care and attention. Exactly my next point. That is exactly my next point, that the child does not have to be segregated for the entire day. The child does not need a completely different classroom for the whole day. Okay. Just for some specified amount of time, you take those particular children to a different place, give them specific interventions. I'm sure all of you have seen the movie Tare Zameen Par. In that, the teacher, Mr. Nikum, after school, he gives specific intervention to the child. I'm forgetting the name of the child, but okay, I don't remember the name of the child. But yeah, so there's an after-school intervention that is given to the child. Similarly, but in some schools, like there was a school I was associated with in UAE. There, during the school hours, we would ask a child, we would take the specific child / children, because from different classes at different times, we would take them for specific period of time for like half an hour, 45 minutes, and give them specific intervention using all different kinds of resources. That is the way we used to provide. But we would give them specific interventions and then a tailor-made set of assessments during exam. So those children are made to sit separately and write the exams. They are given, it is more of objective-based assessments for them. Fundamentals, but objective-based, not subjective. We don't have too many subjective questions in the early years. Gradually, say after somewhere in the middle school, we introduced one-line answers for them. Then gradually we increased it to 3 sentences and 4 sentences. That's the way we gave the intervention. But having said that, you need not segregate the child who needs a specific intervention. You just allot a certain time. It can be after school or it can be during the school hours itself. Okay. And what happens because of all that? We have an inclusive environment. When we segregate them, or rather when we keep them away, segregate them from other children, it is not this that happens. If we include them in the classroom, in the regular classroom, this is what happens, right? A happy, joyful space with children from all diverse backgrounds. That is the essence of inclusive education. Now moving on, some facts and some myth. Let's bust some of the myth. This is one of the initial myths, that students with disabilities will slow down the learning of other children. Of course not. It would not slow down the learning of other children. In fact, with proper support and differentiated instruction, all students, and I reiterate the term, all students learn at their own pace. Inclusive classrooms encourage cooperative learning, where all the students help each other. I'll just stop my screen share because I would like to share a small incident that happened with me personally, with me as in with my children. In my son's school, I'm blessed with two children. The elder one is a daughter and the younger one is a son. Okay, so the younger one, in his class last year, there was a child with specific need. Okay. And what happened was, my son, is one of the children who finished their work a little quickly, a little quicker than others. So the teacher actually asked him to sit with this particular child and help the child finish their work. In the process, what happened is, so my son is called Jay Shankar. Jay Shankar actually explained the concept to the child using all kuti examples that are in their own world, in their playway method. And then he helped the child write. He would hold the child's hand sometimes. Sometimes he would give the child a thick crayon to write. And he would do all such wonderful techniques, which he has seen me doing with other children. Gradually, in the first term, the child was okay. And the class teacher, she told me that this child is learning, but it's a bit slow. Okay. So I said, no problem. Let them be. Let children be children. Let them do it in their own way. Gradually, by the end of, I think it was PA2, that was somewhere in January or, in January only, when we went for the PTM, the class teacher was very happy. I thought probably Jay has done some wonderful academic work and his exam performance was really good. But more than that, the class teacher said, Jay helped this particular child so well that this time for the exam, the child wrote in complete sentences. There has been a stark improvement in the child's work. Okay. So this cooperative learning is something that is observed to work among all children, especially when it comes to inclusive education. Okay. And in fact, there was another child in my daughter's class. Okay. And there also they were all collaborating to help this particular child in my daughter's class. My daughter's name is Janani. And in Janani's class, everybody was helping this particular child together. And this particular child had slightly slow learning ability. Okay. So for her, my daughter also tried all these art methods and everything. And one of my daughter's classmates, he actually told this child how to go all the way from the school to the home without any support. And he actually drew a map and gave some specific landmarks. Okay. And he said, the classmate said, tum ye dekhna, उसके बाद ये shop आएगा, उसके बाद वो आएगा. This child, she understood everything. And one day she really wanted to try, but unfortunately her parents come and pick her up. So she could not try. Then one day, what happened is the parents came a little late. So she kept these landmarks in mind and she walked all the way from the school to her home, looking at each and every landmark. That is the effect of inclusive education and collaborative learning. And this is not just restricted to children with specific needs, okay? Even normal children, they learn to empathize and they learn to pick up a lot of traits from these children. They learn to know and deal with life. They realize they get to view life at a slightly closer quarters, the dangers of life. Like in the morning, I came across this beautiful video that said, among children, it is necessary to give them a small dose of danger. Okay. These collaborative teaching and learning efforts give them an insight into what is life, the beautiful life that lies ahead. And this gives them a very, very nice way of exploring things. So that was myth 1, that students with disability slow down the learning of others. Not at all. Never. It just extends the amount of support and it gives them differentiated instructions. Now let us go to myth 2. Inclusive education only benefits students with disabilities. Absolutely not. You just now heard how my own children, through inclusive education, how a lot of the skills were improved. And it actually promotes a culture of acceptance, empathy, and collaboration. So much so that, in fact, I happened to go to a wedding. Okay. And one of the guests attending the wedding, one of the families attending the wedding, had a child with Down syndrome. Now, generally, what happens when you come across someone with Down syndrome, like there's all sorts of things, all different weird expressions we see. But surprisingly, some children, there were 2 particular children who actually came up, took this particular child who's suffering from Down syndrome, took him along and played hide and seek. Cholo, cholo, let's all play hide and seek. And children, as such, they don't need any particular language to speak and to bond, right? But they were actually playing hide and seek. And then later I approached these 2 children, because these 2 children, they were known to me. They were a part of our extended family. I asked him, do you know that child who was there? They're like, no, I don't know. I said, then how could you drag him to play along with you? Oh, no, I also have 2 of my friends are there in my class. Who are one is autistic, the other is other is diagnosed with ADHD. So we know how to deal with them, and that's why we knew how to deal with this child also. So we took him along, and we were playing hide and seek, and he also had a good time. That is acceptance. Need I say anything more? We are able to see this effect of inclusive classroom in the upcoming generation. But take it with a pinch of salt. It's only in those schools where inclusive classrooms are being implemented. And the crying need of the hour is to go that extra mile, implement it everywhere. Every school must have inclusive classrooms. It enhances SEL skills, which unfortunately in students of my generation, I'm sorry to say, I'm sorry for being so brutal, it is lacking. Social emotional learning is lacking in many people of who were students when I was, many people of my generation, they are lacking. SEL is lacking. People are insensitive. They are not empathetic enough. But in the upcoming generation, due to these efforts, inclusive education, value education, due to all these efforts, things are changing. Maybe a wee little tiny bit, but yes, there is hope. Moving on, we go to the next one. That teachers in inclusive classrooms need to lower their expectation for students with disabilities. बिल्कुल नहीं भाई, ऐसा बिल्कुल नहीं है. Inclusive education actually encourages and it sets achievable goals for all the students. I repeat, I emphasize achievable goals. Okay. You teach them whatever is there in the regular curricula. You teach them in a way that they would like to listen to. Maybe storytelling, maybe dance, maybe art, maybe modeling, or maybe sketching. It's okay. Teach them the way they would like to listen. And they will listen. They will pick it up and they would reproduce it. So in inclusive classroom, teacher need not lower the expectations at all. Yes, tailor-made assessment is one thing. If you are saying, if you are giving answer in brief question, asking the children, describe the 4 stages of water cycle. Okay. Or forget water cycle. Water cycle हमेशा ही दिमाग में आता है. Describe the different layers of atmosphere. Okay. You can ask a child with specific need, which of the following is a part of the atmosphere? Give a multiple choice, 4 option de do, they will mark the answer. In which of these layers of atmosphere does an aeroplane fly? Give them all the 4 options, they will mark it. Here, the LO is the same. Learning achievement is the same. Only thing, you're giving a different assessment. The mode of assessment is different. That's all. Moving on. So, I think I have another 10 minutes. I'll try and wrap this up as quickly as possible. These are the differences between inclusive education and special education. Unfortunately, many people think inclusive education is same as special education. No, not at all. Inclusive education and special education are 2 completely different concepts. Okay, in inclusive education, the brain is functioning pretty normally. It's 75 to 100% normal. Okay. So in inclusive education, in the setting, children learn alongside the disabled, non-disabled or normal peers. Okay, in the mainstream classroom, it is a mainstream classroom. I reiterate, it is mainstream classroom only. Whereas in special education, there are separate classrooms that are specifically designed. For example, for a child who's suffering from complete muscular dystrophy, okay, and cerebral palsy and muscular dystrophy, I'm talking about both of them together, then it is special education. For a child who is completely blind, again, to an extent, it is special education because you need books in Braille. They write in Braille. Okay. Then comes a teaching approach. It is differentiated instruction. The teaching methods are adjusted to meet the diverse needs of the child. It is just differentiated instruction, something on the lines of multimodal learning. Not the same as multimodal learning. I reiterate, it's not the same as multimodal learning, but it's something on the lines of multimodal learning. Okay. But for children who need special education, there are specialized teaching techniques designed for specific disabilities. And mostly in special education, it is focused on individual attention. Okay. It is not a generic approach. Then going to the next part, which is social interaction. In inclusive education, you encourage collaboration and interaction. Whereas in special education, there is very limited social interaction. Okay, very limited social interaction with normal people. Okay, because students are mostly grouped with others who have similar disabilities. Then coming to the curriculum. It is a general curriculum which is made largely flexible. Whereas here in special education, it is a specialized curriculum that is tailor-made as per individual needs. So here is where we often have ISPs, that is individual study plans in special education. We do not emphasize on individual study plans and individual learning objective per se in inclusive education. Okay. And finally, what is the goal? Create an equitable learning environment where all students succeed together, where all students, they go together. Whereas in case of special education, it is specialized education to meet the unique needs of the student. Okay. And they are different from the mainstream education. I reiterate, special education is way different from the mainstream education. Okay. So on that note, thank you very much for being a patient listener. And I throw the floor open for questions. And I'm sure there are questions over here. Okay, is it practically possible in a class of 35 children with one special needs aggressive kid throwing things? 1 minute. Please give me a moment. Yeah. Throwing things around, can a teacher balance her attention between the two different needs in the class? Yes, definitely. Yes, ma'am, Radha ma'am. It is possible. Okay. While, yes, I agree, it becomes very, very difficult when the child is hyperactive. So here I'll share an anecdote, or rather an incident which one of my colleagues did. Okay. Now he is a math teacher, and there was not just one, there were two hyperactive children. And throughout in the class, they would not sit at one place. They would keep hopping, skipping, jumping, running everywhere. Okay. And the entire class would be naturally distracted. So what my colleague did was, he took them out to the playground. He said, chalo, aaj hum sab playground mein jaake daudte hain. Okay. That was a math class, by the way. He took them to the playground and he started teaching them integers on the playground. Here, what happened is, it was not only that this particular child was actually looking at his teacher, all the other children were also being attentive. Okay. And he actually taught the concept of integers in the playground. Ultimately, the child was quiet. Quiet in the sense the child enjoyed running around. Along with him, all the other children also, they were running around. They were playing football. Okay. You score a goal, you get a positive integer. You miss a goal, you get a negative integer. And the child, very surprisingly, he actually picked up the concept in that. And it is very much possible when a child is becoming very, very aggressive and throwing things, that means there's a lot of energy within the child. That energy needs to be spent up. So now it is, I agree, it is every day you cannot take the children out on the playground. Okay. But after this one class in math, for the next 2 to 3 classes, he was quiet for the day. Okay. After this one class in math, the next 2-3 periods, he was quiet. He was, I wouldn't say he was completely attentive and writing and all that, but he was actually making an attempt to listen to the teacher, stay quiet. Okay. And so one thing what you can try is, in the morning itself, at the beginning of the school or at the beginning of the classes, after your assembly, take the child separately, this aggressive child, take the child separately, spend some time with the child in maybe playing with some of the resources, or maybe exposing him or her to the different resource or an art that the child enjoys. Probably, since you are saying that the child is very aggressive and throws things around, this child, he or she would be engaged in sports. They would perform good in sports. Try doing that. Provide a specific intervention that way. Start with spending some amount of time with the child on sports, and then gradually bring the child back to the classroom. That can work for you. It might. I'm not saying it will work. This is not very, I would not say it is set in stone, but it might work. With the experience that I have had before, it might work. Okay. Yes, Nisha, Banu ma'am, it is not easy in practical learning. Zindagi mein what is easy? Tell me, what is easy in life? Nothing is easy. We always live up to the challenge. It is not easy, it is difficult. Now, this webinar for me, I really hate taking it online. It is difficult for me. But I try my best to break the barrier, right? There is nothing impossible. Yes, I know it's a Gisa Pita dialogue, but there is nothing that is not easy also. It is difficult and it is possible. It is difficult, it is possible. Okay. Ask for help. And there is nothing wrong in asking for help. Huh? When it comes to inclusive education, please ask for help. Involve your community, involve the parent volunteers who are ready. Ask around, reach out to your parents, to your school parents. Ask them if anybody has an experience in dealing with children with specific needs, or do they have any reference that they can pass on. Ask for help and then do it. There is nothing wrong in asking for help. Please. Okay. All right. So thank you so much, everyone. And morning physical exercise as a routine is done for 15 minutes. Madam, Radha ma'am, for this particular child, extend the time a little more. Okay. Extend the time a little more for this particular child. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dr. Indira, for this insightful session. I'm sure we all have valuable takeaways which will help us to prepare relevant details, like having inclusive school is not the main thing. It is depending upon us to addressing the stigma and discrimination in the community, and above all, educating the community. Because we teachers, if we understand the stigma, if we understand everything, I think then only there will be a benefit of inclusive education. So this was a wonderful session, and we request the participants not to leave the meeting. I think they have already have actually downloaded the link and filled up the form, because if they want the certificates, they have to do so. And we are going to arrange the certificates within 7 working days, and this will be sent to you. Dear members who have attended today's session, they are requested to just mail the details if you have not filled in the form today to vidyadaantraining@gmail.com. And your name is very important, school name is important, topic of the session is important there, as well as the WhatsApp number. And we'll continue with these sessions next. Until then, we'll meet you once again next Saturday. Let us all continue with the zeal of completing our 50 hours of session as soon as possible before the year ends. Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am, once again.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.